This one's going to be really hard to review because it's really, really weird. I like it, but it's really, really weird. It's a bit like End to Evangelion or kind of a lot of things like that, where opinions are very polarized. Some people really like it, other people really hate it, but there's not really as much of a in the middle opinion. And that kind of happens whenever you have something that's very postmodern, very experimental, very kind of existentialist. Some people get it, and other people just don't get it. And I don't mean that in like a condescending way, but it touches something within some people, and it doesn't within other people. Like, for instance, a lot of people really like Donnie Darko. I hated the movie when I watched it, and I really don't have a desire to watch it again. But a lot of people think it's one of the best movies of all time. And that's kind of, once again, the postmodern kind of existentialist film. And it's very much a hit or miss thing. So the reason I decided to watch this show is I have Netflix just because my family uses it. And I figure if I have it, I might as well try to find something to watch on it. So much of Netflix is mass-produced garbage. It's kind of a little game I play where I try to find something that's like worth watching. And I saw this, and I hadn't looked at it for a long time because I thought it was like The Maze Runner or like some young adult post-apocalyptic book adopted. And what kind of a name is OA? I thought it was like OA or Ouya or something like that. But I was just like, yeah, maybe I'll just watch the first episode and see how it goes. And I flipped it on, and I almost immediately started liking it. And I kind of got addicted because it's a mystery show. So you got to see what's going to happen. You got to see what's going to happen. You got to see what's going to happen. So I think I agree largely with what people said. It's not necessarily good or bad. It has very good elements and very bad elements. It's definitely not mediocre, and that's a point in its favor. The worst thing you can do is to be mediocre and boring. That's why I say Iron Man 2 is so bad, because Iron Man 2 is the most mediocre movie ever made. It's so phoned in. This isn't phoned in. This is where they made some good decisions and made some bad decisions. So let's talk about the show itself. Let's try to untangle this mess, because this show is very confusing and there's going to be major spoilers. So our main character is Prairie Johnson. I'm not sure how old she's supposed to be in this show, and that kind of confuses me, and that kind of makes it a bit difficult, because oftentimes when you have women in their 20s and 30s, they kind of look the same. So the actress who plays her is 36, but she kind of looks younger, and I'm not sure how old Prairie's supposed to be. I think she's supposed to be in her mid-20s. But the other thing is all the other actors are also older than their characters should be. Like the people in high school are actually like played by like 25-year-old actors or whatever. So she doesn't actually seem that much older than them. You know what I mean? So that was kind of weird, and that kind of confused me for the first couple episodes until somebody said, "Oh, Prairie, you're hanging out with those people and you're much older than them." But I'm like, they look like the same age. Anyway, so Prairie went missing 7 years before the series, and she just showed back up. And when she went missing, she was blind, and when she came back, she could see again. And it's this mystery, and people are wondering what happened. And she insists on only going by the term OA, or by the name OA. She doesn't respond to Prairie anymore. Her name is the OA, which we'll eventually find out means Original Angel. So we cut to a variety of different misfits. It's not that important to go into them. Most of them are kind of detestable people, but she gathers all these people around her because she has a quest, a mission of sorts. And once again, this show plays its cards very close to its chest. You don't really know what's happening. You don't really... It's very kind of confusing and hard to digest. But essentially, from what I could gather, the plot is this. Prairie was the daughter of a Russian oligarch, and she had a near-death experience when her school bus went off a cliff or something like that, and the near-death experience made her blind. There was a lot of turmoil in Russia at the time, so her father sent her to live with her aunt in America. However, her father died, and when her father died, they stopped sending money, so she was a blind girl who was a financial burden on her aunt. So she got adopted by a couple who are her parents, I guess you could say, in the show, and she lived with them and was blind. So one day she decided to leave home in trying to search for her father. And also during her near death experience, a like celestial being came to her and told her that she was taking her sight away so that to protect her from the horrors to come. So she kind of leaves to search for meaning, and she's playing a violin at a subway station, and it's very beautiful. And a guy, Lucius Malfoy, comes up to her. I mean, I get that he's the villain, but getting Jason Isaacs to play your villain is kind of very obvious the way it was going to go, because you're not sure, is he really the bad guy? Like, his role is ambiguous, but the actor makes it pretty clear that he's going to be the main villain. So he tells Prairie that her incredible talent is similar to that he's seen in other people who have had near-death experiences, and that he's a scientist who's researching them because he wants to find definitive proof of an afterlife, because he believes it will change the world. And he's very charismatic and very dedicated. And honestly, I sympathize very strongly. If you were able to scientifically prove an afterlife, like beyond a reasonable doubt, that would have very profound implications. It would change everything. I mean, the belief in an afterlife does change everything, and people are willing to live and die based on that. So, it's certainly an interesting topic worth exploring, and it's interesting to see someone going to that length. So, she asked to go with him so that he can study her to try and unravel the secrets of life and death. However, it turns out that Dr. Hap is actually a mad scientist, and he has this really interesting like cage system set up in his basement. He's in an abandoned mine, and there's like spring water that flows through it. And he's got 4 other people there with him. I forget if it's 4 now or it eventually becomes 4. It doesn't really matter. So they have all those people there, so he keeps them in cages. He feeds them pellets. They have to share the same water. That's like there's like a spring that goes under the cages that they can drink out of and bathe out of. He doesn't give them new clothing or anything. They're basically kept like animals. And what he does is he periodically gasses one of them, takes them into a room, and kills them by drowning them, and then revives them. And his idea being to try to record a near-death experience and just kind of to do it over and over and over again. Unfortunately, the gas prevents them from remembering, so they don't gain benefits from the near-death experiences. So Prairie, because she's blind and she can't see his work and she can't run away, becomes his housekeeper. She cooks for him and cleans for him and that kind of stuff. And she's given a lot more freedom. Now, at one point, she does try to run away, and Hap shoots her and hits her in the back of the head with a piece of wood. She has another near-death experience, and she can see again. She regains her sight. And kind of back in the present, she's brought this group of like 5 people to her. We don't really know what their purpose is, but she's telling them the backstory. The backstory is way better than the stuff in the present. But you can see she's having a positive impact on these people. They're starting to get their lives together. They're starting to become stronger people hearing her story. There's a transformative aspect to it. So anyways, a bunch of other stuff happens. And eventually she finds that there's a series of movements that they'll have to perform that will have supernatural abilities. So she has the first movement. Homer, who's in the cell next to her, learns the second movement. And Hap, in a rage, kills one of them. And using the first 2 movements, they bring him back to life. And what Hap wants is he wants to open like a super medical clinic with the 2 movements and cure the sickest people on Earth. So that's Hap's kind of plan. And then they eventually find out that, or at least someone's told that if they can learn all 5 movements, they can open a dimensional portal and go elsewhere, which is really weird. So a bunch of other stuff happens that I won't go into. You can watch the show yourself. But Hap manages to figure out all 5 movements, and he doesn't need Prairie anymore. So he throws her out, saying that him and the rest of them will be in another dimension by the time she gets back. And meanwhile, a bunch of stuff is going on in the present. So we learn her goal was to get all these people together. And the reason she's called the OA is because she's the original angel. She's the first one to receive the message from the celestial being, and then the rest of them do. So she says we're all angels, and we've been sent to bring salvation to humanity or something to that. So with the people she gathers, she wants them to all to learn how to do the movements, and then open a portal to send her back so she can save the rest of her original friends. And this is where we kind of start to run into the series' main problem. And that problem is Prairie. The actress does a really good job, but the thing is, the problem with playing a character that has severe PTSD is the audience can't relate to them. I can't relate to her. I've never been in a similar situation. Like, in general, in a movie, you can relate to triumph, to hardship, to love, to hate, to joy. These are normal human emotions. Like, being kind of an emotional basket case because you were in prison for 7 years is not something people can relate to. So a lot of the things Prairie does, how she interacts with people, is kind of very distasteful. Like, there's one theory that's presented at the end of the first season that what actually happened is she made the whole thing up by reading a bunch of books, like about her father, about her imprisonment, about the angel thing, that she made the whole thing up. And when they talk to her therapist, he's like, oh, the important thing is that you listen to her. And the guy's like, well, she lied to us. And he's like, oh, that doesn't matter. So if the whole thing is a lie, then that's really shitty of her to get all these people's hopes up, to promise them all these things. I don't really care if she has PTSD or not. That's a really shitty thing to do. Also, she refuses to tell her parents anything. She just kind of blows them off. They really worry about her, but she won't communicate with them. She won't tell the FBI where Hap is. Like, she won't cooperate with them. She, like the people are being held and, like, tortured in these cages, and she refuses to give them any information. She's a very unlikable person. She's supposed to be kind of this messianic figure, but she's just very, very unlikable. At least I did. Maybe I'm just overly harsh and overly critical. But I didn't find her very relatable. I think the actress did a good job, but I think the writing could have used some work. And the last episode, things kind of fell apart, where we had built it up, where we're going to have all the crack team. We're going to learn the secrets of life and death and the universe and everything. And then, oh, the whole thing was a lie. Or maybe it wasn't a lie. I don't know. So then, to make things even weirder, after she's kind of been outed as sort of a fraud, she has the premonition and runs to the school. And once she reaches the school, she finds that there's a school shooter who came out of nowhere. I don't even know why it's in this show. And her team does their movements, which distracts the school shooter long enough for someone to take him down. He fires one bullet, though, and it hits the OA. And she goes, "You did the movements. It's taking me to another dimension." And then she looks at the camera and says, "Homer," and the season ends. And then it's not continued for 3 years. And that's another thing. If you're going to have, like, a mystery series, then just fucking, like, do it. Like don't wait 2 years. If you're going to have something that's A, only 8 episodes long, and B, is going to end on a cliffhanger and leave nothing resolved, release the next thing the next part next year. Don't wait 2 years, then start filming it, and then release it. So I'm doing this now in part because the next season's coming out in March, at the end of March, so in a couple weeks. But it's just really, like, shitty to do that. So that's kind of my takeaway on the show. Is it a good show? It's pretty good. I liked it. I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's a very interesting piece of television. It's very kind of unique and innovative, and the cinematography and acting are excellent. But it does have some fundamental flaws. It relies a lot on what the twist, and if it turns out that the whole thing was just a dream or just a lie or just a story, and it's trying to make some, like, weird point about how, like, stories are a manifestation of what we are, some crap like that, then this show would just be super lame. But as it is, I did my best to try to explain it. So that's the original angel. Oh, and just one more thing. Where is this idea that humans become angels come from? Humans don't become angels. Humans become saints when they go to heaven, and they have certain abilities there that they don't have on earth because they're closer to God. Angels are something completely different. Angels are a completely different creation that is unrelated to humanity. They're just they're just pure intellects rather than, they don't have bodies. So she can't become an angel and they can't become angels. The being she met could be an angel, I guess, but even so, yeah, I don't know. It's just really weird. But that's the show. I hope you liked it. I'll talk to you guys later.